but you guys are the ones that got us all here. So, so I'm happy to introduce David Hanum from our science panel, and I'll mispronounce a lot of names now, so I'm just going to give an advance apology, and he will introduce TRA President Sally Hayati, who will give us lots of facts, data, and analysis.
Good morning. I'm Dr. David Hanum. Big hand for Steve Goldsmith. Steve Goldsmith. I'm here today to speak for the TRAA Science Panel. Back in 2016, several local scientists and engineers got together, joined TRAA President Dr. Sally Hayati to expose the danger of MHF. There are 8 of us now, 7 with PhDs. We have no vested interest for or against the oil industry. The only thing that unites us is that we don't want to die from this chemical. I live about a half mile from the Torrance Refinery. When I heard about MHF, I was concerned, but I wanted to be sure this was a real problem, not just some local paranoia. So I did my research. You don't need a refinery experience to understand MHF, but a science background helps. I have a PhD in physics and experience in hydrodynamics, and that really helps. After reading articles from both sides, I was convinced the MHF science presented by Refinery relies on confidential documents that break the laws of physics. But the science presented by Dr. Hayati is thoroughly backed up with references to public patents and journals. Judge for yourself. Her research, our research, is on our website. Just like the other members on the science panel, I was impressed by her research. So much so that I got off my butt and joined the TRAA. Sally continues to impress and inspire us as she leads our organization and serves as a member of AQMD's working group on Rule 1410. Here she is, our president, Dr. Sally Hayati.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. And I am going to speak, but we've got Congresswoman Nanette Barragan with us today. And she's got to leave. So I'm going to have her speak first, and then I will come up after her. Thank you.
Good morning. It's so great to come out and see a crowd. First, I want to thank Sally and Steve and Connie Sullivan for inviting me to be here today. I don't know if you all know, I went to North Torrance High School, just a stone's throw from here. My brother lives within a few blocks of the Torrance Refinery. And so for me, being able to come here and join the fight is very personal. Now, I represent California's 44th Congressional District, which includes San Pedro, Compton, Watts, and Wilmington. Now, the 2 places where you still see the use of this substance is Valero and Wilmington and here. And it's totally unacceptable. So when Ted Lieu and the environmental groups came to me and said, would you do a joint letter with Ted to urge the AQMD to ban this substance? I said, hell yeah. But we have to do more. We have to get our communities to understand what is happening. And as many of you have said, you know, as was told earlier, where did you hear about this from? You need to go talk to your neighbor and to your friends and post. Look, when I used to be on the city council in Hermosa Beach and an oil company was trying to come and drill into the California coastline, we organized, we got out. I see some of you here today as part of that fight. That is how you win. That is how you prevail. You have to get together and organize and mobilize, and you can't stop until you see results. So I wrote a letter. We talk to the AQMD often. I see Communities for a Better Environment here today from my very own district down in Wilmington, who does environmental justice work up and down this area. But there's so many of you here. And this is where our communities need to come together. And you need to even reach out to your friends who don't live nearby and say, will you join this fight for environmental justice? So let me leave you with something today. We can all go home and we could complain to ourselves. We could all go home and do nothing. But I know that because you showed up this morning, That's not you. Every sign that you invest in, every door hanger that you go put out, educates people who are not, how do I say this? I call them the average voter. They're people who are working 2 jobs. They don't come to city council meetings. Sometimes they may not have time to read the paper. But if you go and leave a door hanger, that may get them into the issue. That's what's happened before. Now, I'm in Washington fighting a president who wants to cut the EPA. He wants to cut their funding by 33%. You know the air monitoring that's done out here? That comes through EPA funding and with AQMD. They work together. If you cut the AQMD's budget, you're going to effectively stop any monitoring of any harmful substance and chemicals in the air. Now, isn't that crazy when you live right next to an oil refinery? Now, let me tell you, we're hearing lies coming out of Washington. We hear a lot of lies coming out of the oil refineries and the companies. I know. They've been telling me these lies for a long time. The other day, I was in Natural Resources hearing. It's the committee that does all the environmental work. And I had a Republican colleague of mine tell me, there is no harm at all. If you live next to an oil refinery, there's no pollution issues, there's no health impacts, and there's no science. And I couldn't believe it. I let him have it. I said, why don't you come to my district and talk to the people who live next to these facilities? Come and talk to the people who are suffering from cancer. But MHF? Oh no, that's even worse. And what do I mean by even worse? If there is a release of this substance and it's big, it can kill immediately, right? Isn't that what we know? But they don't want to believe the science. But we have to continue. Why? Because their messaging is, tell a lie, keep telling the lie, and eventually people are going to believe it. This is where you all make a difference. You have to unite. You have to be able to continue to go out and spread the message and make it simple. I love the slogan that I used and I just heard coming here today. Let's try it one more time. Let's try to get this chant down so when you march, people hear what it is. So ready? On the count of 3, we're gonna do, hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has had to go. Ho, ho, MHF has got to go. MHF has got to go. Let me tell you why this is important. It's a catchy and it's a slogan. And how do you get awareness? Here you see some news vans showed up today and some media outlets. That is what power you have. And if we continue to do this, not just here in this community, but throughout, it's going to raise awareness, it's going to educate people, and then the outrage will start. The outrage will grow, and we know through the power of people and what you're doing, the outrage is changing things in Washington, maybe not as quickly as you want, but it is happening and it will happen here. So please continue the fight. Know that I am fighting in Washington and locally, whatever I can do to help ban this horrible, dangerous substance, I will do, and I'm willing to stand up to the oil companies and the oil refineries. I stand with you. Thank you.
We need to elect more politicians like that, more people to elected offices who are willing to take a stand. But we've got to find people willing to run. So good morning, and it's good to see all of you here. Our goal is the replacement of modified hydrofluoric acid with a safe alternative within 4 years. Safe refineries save lives. That's a good old USW chant that they hopefully haven't forgotten. And MHF replacement will create jobs, not eliminate them. Chevron is voluntarily converting its only HF refinery to ionic liquids, a new alternative, completing by 2020, voluntarily, okay? Yes, its workers support that change. They love getting rid of HF. The 8 other California alky units use sulfuric acid, a liquid. Torrance can build a new unit while operating its existing unit, which means downtime should be limited to about 6 months for connection and testing. Rail transport can be used for sulfuric acid in Torrance. Extra trucks aren't needed. Valero could convert its existing unit, which is said to be 40 to 60% cheaper than building a new one. Using modular construction like Chevron is doing, Alky unit downtime would be approximately 1 year. And not all the other units in the refinery can keep operating at full speed if they can just develop alternative treatment for the normal Alky unit inputs. Conversion costs should be less than 400 million each, not above 900 million like we've heard. It's highly unlikely that either refinery would simply be shuttered and abandoned. So we need to eliminate it here before it's too late, because the risk and the potential consequences of a release are actually significantly higher in LA County than for any other HF refinery area in the US. This is an earthquake hot zone, isn't it? Multiple large faults expected with very significant earthquakes. DHS has designated this area a high-threat urban area for terrorist attack, and MHF is a federally designated chemical of interest for terrorist use. Finally, ours is the second most densely populated HF refinery area in the US. That's because most refineries choose sulfuric acid if they're in a populated area. Other than Philadelphia, which incidentally was also fooled into using MHF, a release here would affect 2 to 30 times more people per square mile than a comparable release anywhere else in the US. We have a higher risk and we have higher consequences. Our refineries claim to have all but eliminated HF dangers by adopting modified HF with its vapor suppressant additive. But TRAA's investigation after the 2015 explosion revealed MHF is just the refining industry's equivalent of ultra-light cigarettes, giving the illusion of safety without delivering it. MHF is simply concentrated HF with so little additive it makes no difference. Indeed, last year in August, the AQMD Rule 1410 staff concluded that the refinery couldn't prove MHF safety claims and that a MHF phase-out within approximately 5 years was necessary to prevent health risks to a significant number of persons. Bravo, AQMD staff. But, yes, they got it right, but we experienced a setback this past January 20th when senior AQMD staff reversed that. The initial rule concepts they gave, they provided nearly a decade for the two refineries to add yet more mitigation systems with no mandated MHF replacement. The AQMD wants instead to rely on fail-safe mitigation measures like MHF. Okay, so MHF failed, now we're going to go back around to HF mitigation systems that we already agreed were not safe enough. These systems were never envisioned even by the HF refining industry. They're making it up, and the AQMD doesn't know what it's talking about. This is not acceptable, and we need to develop massive community pressure in order to change that. Otherwise, we're just going around that same circle again. So the January briefing also called into question their own technical staff's August decision, claiming instead that MHF is so complex they just can't figure it out. It's actually so simple, but the AQMD is letting itself off the hook so it can ignore MHF hazards. It seems that political concerns overruled the staff's valid scientific assessment, which goes against AQMD policy, and in fact rewrote and obscured it. This is not too surprising. If the AQMD were to admit MHF is just as deadly as HF, it would be impossible to justify its decision to continue MHF use. And why is that? Because, and we've got a poster up here somewhere, It is unacceptable to risk a disaster of Bhopal-like proportions in LA County. And no economic analysis is ever going to change that fact. So we have to remember this, have faith in that. MHF is capable of a Bhopal. Now, Bhopal was the world's worst chemical accident. Up to 15,000 died, hundreds of thousands injured by a toxic chemical release in '84. There is no doubt that MHF could cause a similar catastrophe. That's why we're here, and that's why the AQMD is now backing off its own technical evaluation. And that's why the refinery continues to make ridiculous safety claims despite being exposed. Doubt, they're creating doubt, just like the tobacco industry and asbestos and so forth. So these refineries got permission to continue HF alkylation based on fraudulent safety claims for MHF. That permission should be revoked without delay. Community members are showing amazing restraint in generously offering a 4-year transition period to reduce the economic burden on an industry that has been deceiving us for nearly 3 decades, and for which our community nearly paid with many lives on February 18th, 2015. It's time to not pay attention to the industry's sob story. But many of us in the community are unaware of our own history. The near miss that we should have learned from in 2015 was over in the blink of an eye. Unlike the near miss at the Oroville Dam spillover, no one had to evacuate, to panic, to frantically search for missing family members. In fact, no one even knew the danger we were in until CBS Evening News broke the story 7 months later. The city of Torrance, which knew about it, never informed us. When they gave a report to the state senate, they didn't mention it. As a result, while frantic repairs began immediately on the spillway, our region remains largely complacent and inert. But next time, we may not be so lucky. We hope that you all leave today with a determination to do what you can and coordinate with like-minded community members directly and through TRAA. That's why we exist, to coordinate the community efforts. Even modest levels of support from a large number of people can win this battle. We need more visibility. We need more people to show visible. It's not enough to be quiet in your house being outraged. The story we will hear this morning from Steve Early about Richmond's success should give us some courage. Sign up, South Bay, TRAA South Bay, for our newsletter. Get news on our next actions and participate in them. Let's get rid of MHF before it's too late. Together, we can win.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Hey, hey, ho, ho. All right. So now we have some real heroes as well who are here to say a few words. City Council Member Kurt Wiederman, who is also up for re-election, and we need a phone bank for him as well.
Good morning. I'm proud to be here because I believe that we are on the right side of history. I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud that I was the first Torrance City Councilman to stand up and say, MHF has to go. I'm proud that we put that on the City Council agenda. And I'm proud that with my colleague, Tim Goodrich, we put it before our colleagues. Now, we lost that race. We lost that vote, 5-2, but it put on the record where we stood. I'm disappointed in the results, but I'm proud to have made that vote. You know, originally I was a skeptic. was a skeptic about TRAA. I admit that. But the persistence of people like Sally, like Cliff and Donna Heist, made me want to listen to what was happening. And when the Norton report came out and I read it, and I read that there were alternatives to that toxic substance they use over there, I was convinced. And during one of our meetings, the good Dr. Ng stood up under orals and said, well, you know, you might not have jurisdiction over it, but you can use that dais as a bully pulpit. And doggone it, Tim and I did. We stood up, we said ban MHF. And as a consequence, we wrote those letters. And the letter I wrote to Dr. Berg on city letterhead with my name. I believe that the use of these chemicals presents a clear and present danger to the community. The ongoing use of hydrofluoric acid, even in a modified form, is not compatible with the residential neighborhoods surrounding the refineries, nor with the health and safety of the workers employed at these facilities. Thank you, Dr. Ng, for making me stand up and learning my responsibilities, because I will use that dais as a bully pulpit. And I'm proud to be here with you today. Thank you very much.
And Tim Goodrich, also from the City Council of Torrance.
I am very encouraged to see this turnout here this morning. It's very heartening to me to see hundreds of concerned citizens coming out, taking up time from their valuable weekend to stand up for something that they really believe in and that's going to benefit the community as a whole. So I appreciate you being here today. I want to give you an analogy. Think of a three-legged stool. It can't stand up with only two legs, right? You need all three legs. So think about what it takes to affect change on any item that you're arguing for that involves city government. That three-legged stool, one leg is the public policy. We have that. We have a team of very qualified scientists that have done the research and shown us the data that MHF is simply too dangerous for our community. It takes elected officials. They're the ones that are making those decisions based off that public policy. But the third leg of that stool is grassroots community activism. Each and every one of you. Because without that backing up, there's no pressure on the elected officials to do what's right. Am I right? So thank you. So thank you for stepping into this fight and putting pressure on elected officials to do what's right. You are the third leg of that stool, and you are critically important to making sure that stool stands up and change is made. Now, some of you may think that that vote in the Torrance City Council, that 5-2 vote that Councilmember Wiedemann and myself lost, I would argue that it's a victory, because we need to take a look at the big picture. The big perspective on that is that while that very night it may have been a defeat of 5-2, the bigger perspective is the board members at the Air Quality Management District did not expect a single council member from the city of Torrance to stand up to the biggest tax generator in the city. So when they saw that, it's my belief that they were surprised, and that woke them up to say, hey, this is a serious issue. We need to take action on this. This is an issue that should have been resolved 25 years ago, but it wasn't. It's because of the work that you guys are doing that this debate has been reignited. It's the work that's been done in the last 3 years that we've come as far as we have. And speaking of victories, it's not just a vote on the council. It's every time you drive by a ban toxic MHF sign in somebody's front yard, each one of those is a single victory that leading up to the broader collective, the big perspective again, is going to be what pushes us over the top. I was encouraged by some of what some of the board members from the AQMD said at the last meeting. I think there's very good opportunity for us here as they make their final decision in the next couple months, but we need to keep up the pressure. We need to continue knocking on doors, continue getting those lawn signs up, continue making phone calls, sending the emails, sending the snail mail letters. We cannot relent until we have won this victory once and for all in the next couple of months here. So keep it up. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. And Matt Johnson from Janice Hahn's office.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Johnson, representing Supervisor Janice Hahn, who could not be here today, but I have a statement to read on her behalf. Today marks the 3rd anniversary of the massive near-miss explosion at the Torrance Refinery. Smoke shot up into the air while ash rained down onto homes and cars. That disaster was terrible, but we know that it came within inches of being catastrophic. Last year, the U.S. Chemical Safety Board found significant gaps in the refinery's process safety management system and stated this accident was preventable. We also have recently learned that the EPA has yet to do any enforcement action after thousands of tons of hazardous waste were discovered at the refinery. From the beginning, the supervisor has believed that this dangerous chemical known as MHF has no place in our refineries. How many more smile fires or unplanned flaring events must this community endure? We cannot afford another near miss. The Torrance Refinery is and will continue to be a good source of jobs in these communities of Torrance and Wilmington, but there is no reason why a safer alternative to MHF should not be implemented. The supervisor stands by you and will continue to advocate for a ban of MHF and the creation of a new and safer alternatives, ones that are safe for our communities and safer for our workers. Thank you.
And I want to emphasize that through Supervisor Hahn's leadership, there was a motion by the County Board of Supervisors calling for a ban on hydrofluoric acid that issued a letter signed by Janice Hahn, Mark Ridley Thomas, Sheila Kuehl, who's the woman from number 5? Catherine Barga, and Hilda Solis, who is now on the AQMD board. So this was very powerful, this is very strong, and we're continuing to expect more support from the Board of Supervisors. And these things happened, and all of these things happened because members of TRA went and visited each of these people and laid out the case and got their support, and we're continuing to expand that. So we need help, and that's something that you guys could, somebody who's interested in doing that, could go to visit elected officials. And we need to support these people and make sure that they stay in office. Speaking of which, Andrew Dublock for Al Martucci.
Good morning, and thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. It's such a pleasure to be here this morning on behalf of Assemblymember Martucci. He regrets he can't attend, but he did give me a statement to read and to commemorate this anniversary. He writes, 3 years ago, on February 18th, 2015, the Torrance Refinery exploded, putting thousands of South Bay residents at risk. That's why I've consistently called for the removal of hydrofluoric acid from populated neighborhoods like Torrance and the surrounding neighborhoods of the South Bay. I hear from my neighbors on a daily basis about the legitimate risk and their fears. My family and I lived just a few miles from the refinery when it exploded just a few years ago. Last year, I introduced a package of bills designed to make California refineries safer, including a bill, AB 1645, to ban HF in the state of California. I am proud to report that 3 of our bills to make neighborhoods safer were signed into law. Unfortunately, the bill to ban HF did not receive enough support to overcome powerful opposition from the oil industry. We need to continue to look at all strategies to remove hydrofluoric acid from refineries near population centers while preserving living wage jobs. I know that's why everyone is here today, and that's the Assembly member's goal as well, and he thanks you for the support and the ongoing time you've spent dedicated to this issue that's important to you. So thank you, Steve, for the invitation and the opportunity to join you.
Great, and we really appreciate the work that Al has done, and it's kind of risky for him in that this is a very narrowly divided district, and so he's really stood up. Other people, are there any other elected people here? But I do want to recognize some. I got. Okay, so Martha Camacho Rodriguez from the Board of Trustees of Cerritos College. Where are you? Wave. Okay, because our schools and universities are quite at risk, you know. They're people, they're going to class every day, and if there's a release, there's no way for them to know about this. Deborah Tabarash from the Torrance Teachers Association. She's the president. Woo, let's hear it for those teachers. Woo. Okay. From Redondo Beach, Council Member Christian Horvath, District 3. All right, I think this is your second year, yeah? Second year, okay. And Senior Representative from Congressman Ted Lieu, who wrote a terrific letter along with Congressman Berrigan, Joey Apadaka. Where is he? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Now I want to introduce someone from the California Nurses Association. Yay! Pedro Keogh and Pedora, sorry. And is Joe Caitlin here from the NAACP? He was scheduled to be. I haven't seen him, but thanks to him, and he's just another supporter. Go ahead. Come.
Once pay the price, you know. Last week I had a patient, he lived in this area, and within a month, he returning to the hospital for asthma exam to prevent him from being intubated. So, and he looked at me with his really sad eye and said, he retired, he had good business before. And he said, I just couldn't afford to move out. I know what's going on here. And I said, he have no other choice. This is where he lives, and his body is being polluted. So we have a major health crisis here, and people, I'm so sorry, and people just, their life are being cut short for it. Couple more thing I want to say is that, this area alone is estimated about 150,000 people that live here, and hydrochloric acid is being processed on site here, one of the 2 refinery and total of 50 in the statewide, and it can cause severe injury to the skin and tissue. And I work at St. Mary's, about 5 to 6 miles from here, and when this kind of event happen, let's say, I hope not happen, but if it happen, I'm not even sure that our hospital surrounding area can accommodate that many people that are gonna get injury from it. Because right now we are so saturated from the flus and the respiratory illness. So think about it, it's frightened me that this refinery still have shut down, flaring, fires, 2015, 2016, 2017. It's a ticking time bomb. And you know what? And our body is being polluted, and I would like to educate everybody, get involved, and the voice of the people. You have much power. I'm dealing with the death, a lot of people suffering at bedside, but I educate people one at a time, and we can be united together and voted for the right politicians that make policies to protect the people instead of being bought. Okay? And yeah, thank you. I have so many things to say, but my time got short. Bye, thanks.
Thank you. Next year, she's going to be the keynote speaker. Okay. And now Sandra Vieira and the Nurses Association, very important to support her, and Sandra's teacher in Torrance and a longtime member of TRA, and she's going to tell us about some of our other partners and some other issues. And we have, after this, one more speaker, and then we're going to march.
Steve asked at the beginning why we were here, what brought us here. My children and your children brought me here. 2015, there was an explosion. I didn't know what was going on, but I drove to North, where my son was a senior, or no, he was a student there. And I parked, and I waited for 2 hours. My car was covered with ash. And I was having a panic attack because I feel like a mama bear, but how do I protect my son from the air? How do I protect my son from the air? Then we had Sandy Hook. After that, all the Torrance schools started doing more drills, more lockdowns. The Torrance police had a training with all the teachers. They basically told us we had to think fast, and we might have to put our lives on the line for the children. I'd like to think that I would, but I can't put my arms in front of children and protect them from an MHF cloud. I can't tackle an MHF cloud and make it go away. Even the drills that we have are not even going to keep us safe because we're supposed to duct tape everything. Duct tape the vents on the ceiling. We can't reach the ceiling. Torrance is not prepared. And that's why I'm here. And I'm here with people, just people from Torrance. Our president, and not just Torrance, but the whole South Bay. But our president is a grandmother. That's why she's here. She's a grandmother and a scientist. And we're an organization of people who will be affected if there is an accident or a natural disaster at the refinery. We are the people that care that workers will be the first ones hurt, and they may be the only ones hurt if the release is small. But we are your neighbors. We're the teachers, the dentists, the nurses, the students, and the parents that don't think that our lives or the lives of our loved ones should be put at risk so that the refineries can safeguard their profit. Now, the refineries have vast resources to cover up the truth and push their message out. They pay lobbyists that can influence the EPA to ignore their very own reports of toxic waste and safety violations at the refinery. And it seems that the refinery can even pay people to attend AQMD meetings. Now, we don't have the money or the resources the refineries do. All we have is people. People like you. To carry our message and from the ground up move the AQMD and the state of California to do the right thing and to ban MHF. Now, all we have is people, but look at us here today. I'll tell you, at some of these AQMD meetings, I felt really intimidated. Sorry. My family can tell you about that. But you know what? I don't feel intimidated today. Today, I feel strong. Today, I feel powerful. Because when we come together to fight for what is morally right, we cannot be ignored. We are so grateful for being joined by so many organizations who have supported us and joined us in this campaign to ban MHF. These partners are 350 South Bay, LA. There's a whole list, so you might want to hold your applause. American Legion, Post 6, Long Beach, American Veterans, Apostolic Faith Center, Asian Pacific Planning and Policy Council, Environmental Justice Committee, California Communities Against Toxics, California Kids, IAQ, California Safe Schools, Center for Biological Diversity, Coalition for a Safe Environment, Communities for a Better Environment, Community Dreams, Del Amo Action Committee, Earth Justice, Emerge, Flare, Little Tokyo Service Center, NAACP San Pedro Wilmington Branch, Natural Resources Defense Council, Progressive Asian Network for Action, San Pedro and Peninsula Homeowners Association, Sierra Club, Los Angeles Chapter, Society for Positive Action, the South Coast Interfaith Council, we just added that today, St. Philomena's Social Justice Ministry, and the Wilmington Improvement Network. Now let's give them a round of applause. So thank you to the organizations for standing with us in our fight to ban MHF. Because we don't want to be the ones that politicians are sending their thoughts and prayers to after a disaster happens. We are going to ban MHF so that that disaster never happens. We're not going away. MHF is going away.
And again, be thinking about what you can do. Are you part of an organization, a bridge club, a tennis group, a local chapter, your church, whatever? Those are organizations. We want to double that list in the next few months. And now I want to introduce Bill Reynolds. He's the chair of our legislative committee. Yes, we have committees, so come and join us. You can get on a committee. We've got an outreach committee, a legislative committee, a media committee, partners committee. So come to the meeting Monday night. It's this Monday night, because this Monday night is the third Monday of the month at Sizzler, 6 o'clock. We start that right on time, and Bill will tell you about what the committee has accomplished here.
Well, we've got a lot of signatures from elected representatives, like we've heard, 2 city councilmen from Torrance and the 5 members of the Board of Supervisors of Los Angeles County, Congressman Liu, U.S. Congressman, Member Nanette Bardagan, and the list is growing. Plus, we have 11,290 signatures here from people just like yourself who have signed a petition to ban MHF, and this is hard copy and online. And these 11,290 people say, hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I introduce our final speaker and we start to march, I want to remind people, one, you can get a petition sheet either online or here at the desk, and you can make that 11,296 because there are 6 lines on each thing. And that also is a place for people to put their emails so they get their newsletter. And we saw how many people are here because they heard about our newsletter. And I want to remind you also to take home a sign for your yard or somebody in your neighborhoods to put on their lawns, because as we heard from the council member, people, particularly elected officials, as they drive around, they see these signs, so very important. So, for our final speaker is Steve Early. Steve has been gracious. We reached out to Ralph Nader, a famous fighter for consumer safety and citizen safety, and he recommended longtime fighter against big corporations and for community and safety, Steve. And he's had years of experience organizing for human rights, and especially brings us information about a community in Northern California that had a successful fight against big oil. Earl. Steve, where are you? There he is. And then we will march.
I can hear the perceptible sigh of relief, the last speaker. This is an action alliance, not a talking alliance, so people want to march. I really appreciate you giving me a couple of minutes, though, and I know when my couple of minutes are up, because Brother Steve is going to stand up. That's going to be my hook sign. I really want to thank Steve and Kathy and Sally and all the other great activists here in Torrance for inviting me down from a fellow refinery town in Northern California, Richmond. How many people here have ever been to the People's Republic of Richmond? All right. It's like half the East Bay is here. I'm a relatively new Californian, moved to Richmond 6 years ago this winter. 6 months later, we got our massive wake-up call, courtesy of my new industrial neighbor, Chevron. Not Chevron the second, Chevron the first. The Richmond Chevron Refinery, its property begins at the end of my street. I look out my window. There are 4 or 5 60,000-ton tankers every day pumping out their holes, fueling the largest refinery in Northern California, providing gas and lubricating oil and jet fuel and other products. A mainstay of the community for 115 years. In August of 2012, a company that year was in the process of making profits of a mere $25 billion had a catastrophic pipe failure due to its lax maintenance practices. A pipe sprung a leak. It caught on fire. A huge towering column of toxic smoke spread over all of the East Bay, even safer places like Berkeley. You've heard of Berkeley, where the university professors live. That moment was a transformative one in our city. People have been struggling to build a movement for economic justice and to take over City Hall and turn a company town into a progressive city for many decades. But that fire 6 years ago really got them moving. Richmond is an 80% non-white city. It's one of the poorest cities in the Bay Area. It's predominantly Black and Latino and Asian, working class and poor. Chevron has been ruling the roost there for more than a century. 20 years ago, we had a 5-member majority on the city council, 5 out of 7. Do you know what they were called? The Chevron 5. Do I need to tell you more about how they voted? That was 20 years ago. Starting in 2004, people who originally were single-issue campaign organizers, like you here today, built a group called the Richmond Progressive Alliance and started running candidates, started fighting Chevron for control of our city hall. Since 2004, progressive candidates in Richmond have won 10 out of 16 races for mayor and city council. Some of you know our great former mayor, Gail McLaughlin. For 8 years, Richmond was the biggest city in the country with a green mayor in a company town long dominated by big oil. Today, our city council has a different kind of progressive supermajority. 5 people, 4 of them from immigrant backgrounds, all of them Bernie Sanders supporters, all pro-labor, pro-environment, willing to fight to make Chevron pay its fair share of taxes, to make Chevron clean up its workplace, keep the community safer, and do something about the problem of global warming, which I'm proud to say Richmond just sued Chevron over. Not only do we have a lawsuit over the damages that the city suffered in our 2012 fire, we just became the latest city or county in California to seek billions in damages for Chevron's contribution to climate change. So I just want to leave you with an upbeat message. It is possible to take on big oil and to beat them. And you start out with a single issue like chemical safety, hazard reduction, and you start building a multi-issue, racial, working class-oriented political organization in your city, and you organize year-round, unite all the groups that are already backing this campaign and cause, and you can take over City Hall in a company town, and you have one too, they have one in El Segundo, and you can make that place greener, cleaner, safer, healthier, and more equitable for all its people. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we're going to get ready to march. Hold on. Here's some general guidelines. The most important is to follow the people with yellow jackets. They're the guides. And we're going to march down there, stop at the stop sign, cross the street safely, and then go across Prairie and down about 2 blocks to the refinery. And we'll stop there, we'll kind of circle around, and then we'll head back. We'll have bullhorns leading the march. Don't forget to chant, show your signs to the people out there on the street that are driving. We've got a van this time with a big sign on it saying honk, and then we'll march back here. Okay, so people can start. There's a path here. Follow the path, follow the yellow brick road, and follow the yellow guide signs. And we're going to start. Let's practice that chant as we go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, MHF has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. MHF has got to go. And by the way, someone said Sepulveda is the Sizzler we're at. The Sizzler is on Sepulveda Avenue, east of Hawthorne. And if students could get one of these signs to carry, and we'll sort of form up and line up, and then we'll cross the street together in sections. Yeah, you could lead the chants.
Yeah, so I didn't want my first vote to be spending money. I think they might have spent That's pretty neat. Them honking, I mean. That means they like us, right? We got them. Watch out, Dan. Yeah, the guy. Another one.
You know, we're very proud of the most of it.
Ho, ho! MHF has got to go! Ho, ho! MHF has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! No more Band-Aids! We want a ban! No more Band-Aids! We want a ban!
door to door is that this community wants MHF, HF, any form out of here. Right? We're here to stay. MHF is going to go. We're going to post this as we did last year as a sign on the door there, on the wall, and it says to PBF, Torrance Refinery Company, Valero, Wilmington Refinery, we demand that all forms of hydrofluoric acid, including modified hydrofluoric acid, be removed from the Torrance and Wilmington refineries now.
MHF has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! MHA has got to go! Speed alongside with an 8mm Bell & Howell camera.
Fast 4 years! Now! We want it now!
Well,
No. Well, I have sweet peas.
Just myself running for state assembly, so I can actually ban it and still talk.
Ho, ho. I have watched some of that.
I was part of that group. Who knows the problem? Hey, hey, don't you know?
Let that car go!
Now this poor devil trying to make a left turn has a bit of a problem.
We got the biggest contributors, the California Democratic Party, $2 million. Because they wanted to make sure that they don't lose the seat to Republicans.
MHF has got to go.
Hydrofluoric acid kills.
So you live where exactly?
I live for
Is that you?